Okay, well, welcome to Conversations with Deborah. Actually, it's Deborah Manning, and this is Malcolm Berman, and we're on the opposite, well, we're the opposite ends of the coast. Deborah's in South Carolina. In fact, I just got an email for someone trying to raise money for the senatorial race in South Carolina.
Interesting. I do wonder why they would be doing that. So let's tell them the date, because it is Friday and it is October the 23rd. It is the day after the final presidential debate. So let's go ahead and stage. And once again, I'm Deborah Manning. Welcome, Malcolm. And you're broadcasting from my old native state of California.
And you're on malcolmpresents.com.
That's right. And we used to be work buddies together. I put together a show with my late husband about finances, and Malcolm was our dear producer, and we had a great time.
But we were on terrestrial radio, so they didn't see your beautiful face. For me,
thank you. So what's on your mind today? What could possibly be on your mind today?
I don't know. All I know is everybody I speak to is very, very nervous. I don't know how you feel. Everybody's tense because they're afraid.
You joke. Oh my God, I had the best sleep ever last night. I went to sleep. I was calm. I was just deliriously happy. I felt very, very refreshed. And you're not?
Why were you refreshed? Did you think?
Because that was a fabulous debate that allowed me to be able to see the stark differences between President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden.
Oh, and good. So you can be voting for Biden now. You switched over.
Actually, Malcolm, I'm on the air to help you use your better judgment, which is to forget about all of the personality of Trump, because he does have it very much time. He does have just an irritating personality, but he does have some great policies.
It's not only his personality; it's his intellect. Mm-hmm. When I hear him speak, it's like listening to a third grader. His vocabulary is so limited.
But beyond that, what was interesting about the presidential debate, and I must say that the moderator, although everybody is complaining about the fact she interrupted President Trump 111 times and only 22 times for Vice President Biden, as an independent journalist, an independent thinker, I have to give her credit. She was very good. She controlled the situation. She asked good follow-up questions to both candidates.
Yeah, she was excellent.
She was great. She really was great. But what I really enjoyed seeing was the difference between the two. President Trump is a businessman, and Joe Biden, for all that he says, is a politician. Like it's been said, lots of talk, very little action. I think the key point for me was he kept reminding us, President Trump kept reminding us, you had all of these great ideas. Why didn't you do it during the 8 years that you were vice president?
Can I tell you why?
The first 2 years, you had both the Senate and the House. Why didn't you take care of systemic racism? Why wasn't it taken care of then?
Well, can I tell you?
One small thing. Keep in mind, I voted both times for Biden and for Obama, both times, because I believe in hope and change. And what I got was empty promises. And that's why I went with Trump in 2016.
Well, Obama and Biden inherited a country that was on the verge of bankruptcy. The automobile industry was going underwater. He saved them. The banks were going underwater. He saved them. And all the money that he did spend to bail them out was repaid to them. He increased the employment rate. He increased the job rate. And then what he didn't do anything against anything else is that McConnell said, oh, we're going to make sure that he's a one-term president. He did not, as far as policies, he did not bring anything to the Senate floor. As far as justices, he did not bring them to the Senate floor because Trump said, oh yeah, when I came into office, there were so many empty justices open, office seats open. It's because
But
McConnell didn't bring them to the floor.
But let's continue with your line of thinking, which was essentially what happened after 2008. I have to agree with you. I actually worked for Bank of America and I worked for a number of the large banks, and I saw the problems with Bank of America because I finally left in 2003 to set up my own company. And what I saw with Bank of America was they were mixing banking with stockbrokering. They actually acquired Merrill Lynch, and some of the crazy things they were doing in terms of risk was nuts. And I have to agree with you. The banks became completely overextended in terms of their balance sheets, and they needed to be bailed out, as did the auto industry, all needed to be bailed out. But the one problem that I really truly had, because we had a small business, my late husband and I, Tom, had a small business, is that after 2008, and we had the worst recovery for small businesses like ours. We had an impossible recovery situation. The regulations that we had were amazing. They were horrific as far as a small business. For maybe a large corporation, maybe it wasn't as bad, but for a small business, it was. Our access to capital was completely constrained. Why? Because the banks were told, well, you've made some horrible loans. Well, they decided then to not make loans to anybody. And as a result, small businesses like my business, Great Western Capital, started to go under. We didn't have the liquidity that the automobile industry did, that the banking industry did, that, bless his heart, Obama gave to those large corporations. But guess what? Not to the small corporations.
Well, well, a lot of it is with the regulations to the banks had to be reined in. Basically, I don't think that was Obama's fault. It was the fact that banks had to be reined in, and part of the restraints on them were businesses such as yourself. I don't know your situation, but I don't know if you had the equity to support the amount of money that you wanted to borrow. But that was because he was saving the bank industry, he was saving our finances, and he inherited, again, if we go back to Bush with that war that he started, I think it all goes back to that. But as far as the recovery was from where he took it in 2008 to where he left it in 2016. Was miraculous.
I would love to say it was miraculous. It may have been miraculous for some of the large corporations, but for Main Street, it was horrific. The number of restrictions that small businesses in Main Street had to put up with was absolutely amazing. It's kind of like I think you got to have faith in the American economy. The American economy, if it's let go, it's like Secretariat. It's like running the Kentucky Derby, and it will run the pants off anybody and everybody else in the world. Because if it doesn't have the constraints, if we don't put the bridle on the American Secretariat, then we can win the Kentucky Derby. And at this point right now, some of the latest numbers coming in from manufacturing, our manufacturing has now gone up to 53.8. Now that number means, it was just released today, that particular number means that if you're below 50, it means that your economy is contracting. If you're above 50, it means that your economy is progressing, which means that manufacturing jobs are starting to come back, that the inventories are low. So that means that those have to be replaced. So we're seeing the economy finally coming back. And when you look at the final numbers with QE3 and QE4, because QE4 obviously will end after the election, are within 1% of where we were almost one full year ago. The unemployment figures, thank the Lord, have come down almost 1 million. So we're about almost halfway, a little bit more than halfway in terms of employment as to where we were when the COVID struck us in January.
I'm not sure if that's
recovery.
I'm not sure if that's going to continue with if we hit a third wave. That's what I'm afraid of. But the question is, when you say do away with the regulations, I'm not sure what regulations, were binding you, were bad for the small businesses. But I know a lot of the regulations that he did away with have to do with polluting the air, with polluting the water, with going into our natural resources, going for drilling oil in the Alaska Reserve, all of these regulations, which basically prevented major business from destroying, the earth, has been done away with. Now, I mean, business is great, but he has a business. He's a businessman. But number one, he's had 4 bankruptcies, major bankruptcies. Number 2, he started with business with about $400 million that he inherited from his father, or his father gave him. Basically, and the thing which I want to know is,
that's the personality. That's Trump, the individual, the person. In terms of looking at his overall policies, before COVID hit, we had the lowest unemployment rate, and the lowest unemployment rate were primarily for the Blacks and the Hispanics, people who had been forgotten for a long period of time. We had some of the best economic news. The economy was roaring, and whether or not he wants to give credit to Obama and Biden, that's beside the point. I'm looking for credit for America. I'm looking for the money to be flowing. And in fact, what's interesting right now is Yelp just came out today with another study that indicates the fact that while restaurants have been just completely beaten down with this COVID situation, they're seeing a spark. They're seeing an additional 6,400 new restaurants, new businesses getting started in 4 separate states, in New Jersey, in Wisconsin. They're looking at in Rhode Island. They're looking in Pennsylvania. 6,400 of these new restaurants getting started. And what's happened? America is coping with COVID. And what I was very concerned about was when Joe Biden's talking about additional lockdowns. I'm also concerned with the fact that he says winter is coming, a very dark winter is coming.
I read the book.
He's not had COVID. President Trump had COVID. He went through it. He was in and out, thank goodness, because of the therapeutics, in 3 days. And now he's doing 3 and 4 rallies a day. Now, once again, you can hate him personally, but when you look at what's actually been done with the warp speed in terms of getting the vaccine and getting the therapeutics out, I mean, that is this man's approach. That's not a approach.
There ain't no vaccine.
But there are therapeutics, and he's
not therapeutics, yes. But
he's not going to he's not raising the vaccine because, once again, he wants to be as careful as anybody wants to be careful.
No. Did you listen to the same debate that I heard yesterday? Did he say
I did, and actually, I took lots of notes.
Did you say where he's going to have a vaccine in a few weeks, that it's going to be mass distributed through the armed services?
Well, he also said he's going to be obeying the rules of the FDA, and the FDA is not going to be giving any kind of an okay until the vaccine has been tested.
Well, my question in that is he going to be twisting the arms of the FDA and the
what?
CDC?
Somehow or another, I know that you now are concerned about the FBI and the Department of Justice as to whether or not they are being copacetic or not, but I have to believe in some of the US agencies, the FDA. I listen to what the CDC has to say in terms of wearing masks and social distancing. For example, yesterday I canceled a meeting I was going to go to that I had scheduled for the last 6 to 8 months. It was going to be a large speaking engagement. I canceled it because, once again, I'm listening to the science. And the science says, stay away from the large.
I have a question for you. I mean, Trump, you say, believes in science. Let's put business aside, because that's always going to be a point of contention between Republicans and Democrats. Who, does private industry control it, or does the government control it? That has been since I remember as a little kid. The Republicans wanted more private control. The Democrats want more control with the government. So that will always be a contention. But as far as the science is concerned, why, first of all, when Trump said at the initial with Bob Woodward's interview, he knew that the COVID-19 was dangerous. He knew it was much more deadlier than the flu. He knew that it was airborne, and he knew that in January.
And what did the World Health Organization say on January the 12th? On January the 12th, because I kept notes, on January the 12th, WHO said this virus cannot be communicated between human to human. That was backing up what the Chinese had said. It doesn't transmit between human to human. WHO even went so far to say that there was no virus transmission between animals. Well, we now know that, for example, a couple of tigers got the COVID, for heaven's sake. So the scientists have learned, they're learning, and I'm not blaming the scientists. What I am saying is, I don't want scientists making policy. I want them giving us the facts, and we as individuals have to make the decisions as to how to handle it. Once again, like I said, my husband now and I, we go out with masks. We have hand sanitizers. We use isopropyl alcohol to be able to sanitize our hands. We're not playing games with this, but I also don't want Biden to blame President Trump for 212,000 COVID deaths.
Well,
that is not right.
Well, I don't I don't necessarily blame him for all the deaths. There were going to be some inevitable.
Well, that's good.
But,
how many do you blame him for?
About 197.
Well, you know what?
291.
Maybe we should be blaming China on all of
No, I don't want to blame anyone. But we're going from this day forward. Why is Trump doing these mega rallies with thousands of people there, and he's not wearing his mask, or he's not telling people to wear the mask there? They're giving out masks, but say, oh, it's freedom. Let you do what you want to do. If you want to wear the mask, fine. If you don't want to wear the mask, it's fine. Everybody knows right now, right, as far as what I hear from the scientists, you wear your mask and you keep social distances. But yet he is going around, as you say, to all these cities, having these mass rallies. And he knows that when he had the virus, or people in the administration had the virus, that it was passed on during the introduction of Amy Coney Barrett.
And how many people were there at the White House, at the Rose Garden? I would say close to 1,000 people. Do you know what the tally was as to the number of people who actually got COVID, including the president? Nine.
No, that was
you know how many people? You know how many people went to the hospital? 2 people went to the hospital.
That was a 9 people. That was the 9 people that. Yeah, where's your cat?
I have Ziggy. This is Zig.
Hi, Ziggy.
Hey, say hello.
I want your cat, but I really want to see your chickens.
Oh, we will have a Zoom call because our chickens, our little girls, oh my heavens to Betsy. You got to come back here, Malcolm. We're getting a dozen eggs a day, a dozen fresh, free range eggs a day. Thank you, Ziggy.
Did you have free range chickens? Are they?
Do we have free range chickens? They're only caged at night.
Oh.
Only caged at night. And then we have a very large run. And the large run allows them to be safe because we have hawks here, we have foxes, we have coyotes, all kinds of things. But they go in.
I don't remember if I told you the story about my mother-in-law going for chickens with her.
No, tell me.
I'm used to buying chickens, going into the supermarket, and they're packaged and, prepared. They're frozen and packaged. First year I was married, my wife is, her family is from El Salvador. So we were going to buy chicken for, I forget what it was, Christmas or Thanksgiving. No, that was turkey. I forget what the occasion was.
One of those.
But we go to downtown LA. I take her downtown. We go to this poultry store. And he brings out a cage full of live chickens. They're live.
I love it.
And she picks out a chicken. He pulls out of the cage. You like this one? And they must have been tranquilized because they were, all pushed in together, like a Trump rally. They were all pushed in together.
Stop it. Do not compare the Trump rally to a chicken being caged.
And she pulled it out.
We can talk about the caged children and the Obama administration, but let's not talk about the Trump rally. Go ahead.
Forget about the Obama, the caged children now, and the children. Oh yeah, but they're being treated well in cages. Yeah, put him in a cage, but we'll treat him. I promise, if he's arrested.
Anyway, continue with the story.
Okay. Anyway, so they take out the chicken. She picks one. They take him out, and they say, "Come back in a half hour or an hour," and they put him through a machine. then plucks out the feathers and cuts his neck. Do you know that night I couldn't eat the chicken?
I feel the same way.
I knew the chicken when it was alive,
No,
or when
I
she was
know.
alive. Now all of a sudden
I
I'm
know.
sitting down to eat her.
I
I
know.
felt like a cannibal.
We feel the same way, and it's very funny because here it's quite common practice to do that when the chickens are done laying their eggs. And we've had our first group of chickens now for about 4.5 years, and so they're at this point now not starting to lay eggs. And we go up to TR Feed and Seed, which one of these days we'll go up and actually show everybody TR Feed and
Well,
Seed.
I want you
It's the
to.
original. It's the original Green Acres. I swear it's the best.
But what I want you is, I say, we don't have to go up there. What we could do, they probably have a computer there or a laptop. We'll zoom them
You
in and
must
do.
be joking. No, no, no. You must be joking. There's no way. And I'm saying that in the most gentle way because these people are wonderful people. Because I keep going up and asking them chicken questions like, do I need to put a heater in the hen house in wintertime? And they look at me like, you're not from around here, are you?
No, I'm from the other South Coast.
I know.
But yeah, of course, now this is the dumb joke. Did you ask them what comes before the chicken or the egg?
Oh, stop it. They both do. But let's
But
get back
anyway,
to
the whole thing
let's
is,
get back to the debate.
to me,
Let's get back to the debate.
we don't necessarily have to close, businesses, but we do have to make sure that people put on masks and keep social distances. In Japan and Korea, that's what they do. I mean,
And you're telling me that in California, you still cannot go into inside to a restaurant?
I don't believe so. You can eat.
We
You
have
can,
been able
you
to
can,
go
you,
into a
you
restaurant.
can eat outside.
We have been able to go into a restaurant, I would say now for 4 months, maybe 5. And once again, what the rules are that you have to have a mask as you come in. You are then seated, and fortunately, you are now 6 feet apart from everybody, which is heaven for me. I like having the extra space. You can take the mask off only so far as you are sitting down and you're eating. And they will bring you, for example, with a coffee cup, because I love coffee. You have to have a separate cup each and every time. They will not refill anything.
Yeah.
And server comes up, takes your order, has a mask on, which is fine by me. All the cooks have masks on, which is fine by me. And it's been fine. It's been great. And if you have to go to the restroom, you do have to wear a mask, which is perfectly fine. But once you sit down, but I understand in California, if you go out, you have to what? Put a mask back on between.
No,
What?
I don't believe that you have to have a mask on the street.
Well, but between bites, you have to put a mask on. Is that right?
Between what?
Between bites, when you're eating at a restaurant?
I don't know. I have not gone out to a restaurant, and then aside from the fact that there's no need to go, because one of the things that the
Well, let me
quarantine.
interrupt you by saying your dear governor has said that's exactly what you need to do. Plus the fact you realize you can be arrested if you have Thanksgiving with anybody other than your family. And it has to be the immediate family. So it just means, I'm sorry, bar the door, Sally, you can't have Thanksgiving. I'm sorry for laughing. It's absurd.
Well,
It's absurd.
it won't be absurd if we have Thanksgiving for these big families, and a lot of people get the virus, and the virus
But
does
bottom
take
line
off.
bottom line is hospitalization rates are down 87%. We already know
Excuse me?
that. They're down 87%.
But how about
Here- Here, for example, we still have cases. I know numerous people who have gotten COVID. They're sick for about a 2-week period of time. They stay inside, they quarantine themselves. They're fine. We, on the other hand, Malcolm, we are the susceptible group, and I take this very, very seriously. But once again, why in the world would you continue to close down the economy as Joe Biden wants to do to be able to fight this virus? We can live with it. And the thing that also really concerns me is when Trump said we can live with this virus, Joe Biden says, no, we'll die by this virus. That's not American optimism.
We don't have to be optimistic when there are over 200 100,000 people that are dead.
Yes, and you realize that many of those died in nursing homes and they also died in the hospital as well. We have learned a lot about COVID.
Right.
We are dealing with COVID and seriously.
Well, we're not dealing from the top. We're dealing the head person that most Americans believe in is Fauci. And Anthony Fauci, Dr. Fauci has been badmouthed by Trump.
And you realize that in January, good old Dr. Fauci, and anybody can make a mistake, said you didn't need to wear masks, and there was not human to human virus transmission. And the reason he said that was he had some friends, he said, and I remember hearing this, he had some friends in China that were telling him that was the case. And once again, this is a crazy virus. We're learning as we go. But once again, Trump, in fact, did follow the scientists as much as the scientists could give him good, solid information. We're on totally unstable ground here, Malcolm.
Right,
and we need to open up the economy.
But he's not following. He is not being a leader in this. He is being saying, "Oh, it's up to the states." You have to have a strong leader.
Legally, you have to do it that way.
I know, but the governors
the law says the feds handle certain things, which is supplying the PPP, supplying all of the backup information, supplying vaccines and all of the therapeutics. But the states, according to the way our Constitution is drawn up, the states have the priority as to making their own private state, local decisions. Right. That's why here in South Carolina, it's totally different than in North Carolina. North Carolina is totally closed down, and guess what's happening? Their rate of COVID infections has skyrocketed, but thank God the hospitalization rate has not gone.
Well, I have a question on your voicemail.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, you're saying that the rate of infection is increasing in South Carolina. That you're very protective. That you and you're saying that you are doing these prescribed type of things, distancings, masks.
Right.
But you said that the rate of COVID has risen in South Carolina.
It has, but the rate of hospitalizations has gone down.
That's because you have no hospital beds.
No, we do. We have plenty of hospital beds. We only have a 5% occupancy of the hospital beds, and approximately only 2.5% of those are with COVID. Now, I'm not dispensing the fact that COVID is not serious. It is serious. But once again, one of the reasons that the entire economy was shut down, do you remember what he said, what everybody said, which was, we're going to be doing a fast lockdown, a fast shutdown, so that we make sure that the hospital is overwhelmed with cases. And in fact, we're not seeing the hospitals overwhelmed with cases. Listen, this virus is highly contagious. There's no doubt about it. So I'm looking, instead of the number of cases, I'm looking at the number of hospitalizations and obviously the number of deaths.
But they have a thing that there is, which is weird. There's in all these cases, they say there's after. There are symptoms that remain for months and months and months. Now, I don't know whether for me it's an old age or memory, but I seem to be a little foggy lately. I said, no.
We're just overwhelmed by the news. It's
the virus. There's nothing else. But the thing is, a president is supposed to command leadership. It's supposed to be people look up to him. Governors are no different than people. They're looking to the presidents for direction. I mean, he keeps on changing.
He said to the governors, open up. And you have then governors that are saying, Fangul to you, we're not opening up. And those particular states have unbelievable unemployment rate. They have now high suicide rates. They have mental illness rates. They need to open up. We have the therapeutics. We have the masks. We have the social distancing. We cannot be cowering
Yeah, but you
fear
don't
like,
but in the certain states, you don't have the social distancing. And in, states are like New York or California, you can't have social distancing because it's just too damn many people. But if you do social distancing plus the mask should be mandatory. It's like here we're required to wear seatbelts. Do you go without seatbelts saying, I'm not going to have the government tell
are
me
you
that
joking?
I have to have,
We absolutely go with seatbelts. And
right. So,
once again, suppose it would be your right if you don't want to go with seatbelts, fine, then you can die.
no, but then
Same
you can get ticketed.
masks.
It's
You can
not,
die if you don't want to.
it's not,
If you don't want
it's
to wear
not
the
your right to
masks.
go without the seatbelt. But all these people came, freedom, freedom, freedom. We're not a country of freedom. We're a country of laws. Laws prevent
Well,
us from doing anything. When I was
I
young,
hope that I hope we're a country of liberty. And what concerns me at this point right now, Joe Biden seems to think that it's more important to sell our liberty to our enemies, such as China and to the Ukraine. I'm stunned at the level of enrichment this particular individual seems to think it's his right as a vice president. It's not his right. He's been in office for 47 years. Can you think of a single bill except for the crime bill in 1994 that he has sponsored? He came back and said, well, that was a mistake. Once again, Malcolm, he had 8 years to change that. Why didn't he change it? If it was a mistake in 1994, why wouldn't it also have been a mistake that he could solve in 2008? I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think they've altered that crime bill. I'm not sure. I would have to look that up. That's one of the things. I have to have my research team do it to take a look into it. But
Google.
but I know that Trump. Yeah, so you can't divorce the personality from the person. You can't divorce the fact that he calls people's names, that he was yelling to his people, lock him up, lock him up. He was talking about let's jail Biden, let's jail Hillary, let's jail anybody that was against him. It was sort of like
And Pelosi and good old Nancy, and once again, Nancy Pelosi calls the police stormtroopers. Chuck Schumer calls him a Nazi. I mean, the name calling has got to stop. I'm really getting tired of it too.
on both sides.
But as one American speaking to another American, I think it's time that what we do is we need to keep someone who in office, regardless of his personality, that is going to do good for America. We didn't know what we got when we voted for him in 2016. I didn't know, but we now know what we have. Regardless of his rotten personality, he has good policies. And did you hear? Sudan and Israel are now coming to peace terms. Why are they?
I just
Because prosperity and trade, that is better than bloodshed. And I must say, that is quite a coup for our President Trump. So I'm asking you, consider the facts. Don't consider the personality. Consider the facts.
Well, I'm considering the facts. Aside from the Middle East, which I just heard that you have Sudan and Israel. It was he had people come to his office today, so I didn't know any facts. I want to see when he draws a peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And
they're going to come to the table,
and they have a country of their own, because I believe that.
They're going to come.
I'm not for, even though I'm Jewish, I'm not necessarily for all of Israel's policies. In fact, half of Israel is not, is against each other.
But you know what you are for? But you know what you are for, my friend, and I know that you're for peace. I'm for middle peace. And the other thing that I want to make sure is that we maintain our energy independence. Joe Biden said last night he plans on getting rid of the oil industry, and that means we give that ace of spades directly back to our enemies. I don't want to go back to the gas lines when I was a kid where the gas prices went up double. I don't want to give that ace of spades to our enemies. Having energy independence is huge. And you and I agree in terms of the situation with so-called climate change. we need to move our way over into sustainable energy, but not immediately. You don't stop, you don't kill, you
No,
don't kill American economy just to
you,
say, oh, I've saved climate change. You can't
no,
do that.
you don't stop it, you change it over, but his policies will create more jobs. It will create.
And that's what Obama said. That's what Obama said in 2008. That's one of the reasons that I voted for him in 2008.
And he created more jobs.
It didn't. You had solar energy companies that took government grants that went belly up. They don't know how to run a business. The one thing I have to say about President Trump, he knows how to run a
He knows how
business.
to run a business to
No,
bankruptcy. The only thing I know, he
no,
knows how to run a business to
we're not
bankruptcy.
bankrupt. We're not bankrupt now.
I think we are. We went up, as we talked about the other day, from a $12 trillion deficit to about a $24 trillion deficit. That's over 12 trillion dollars. How do we pay for that?
And you would deny people who were told by the government to shut down, you would deny them unemployment benefits? I can't imagine that you would. We needed to spend that money to go ahead and help the American people. All of those
I
20
know,
million people who lost their
but
jobs.
we have to have a jobs program the same way as you say the Green New Deal is named after the New Deal. Well, again, I don't remember it either. I wasn't born yet, but during the Depression, the original depression that we hear, I mean, that's what Roosevelt did. He did a New Deal. It wasn't called the Green New Deal, and it was construction. It was for roads. It was for buildings, dams.
And that's exactly what Trump is doing right now. And what really concerns me at this point right now is when Speaker Pelosi is holding the American public hostage. She wants to go ahead and give money to states and localities to go ahead and bail out their pension funds. I want those monies to go directly to people who are still suffering, who still don't have a job and may never have a job again.
Yeah, but
that New Deal, that money that was approved, those 3 stimulus packages kept this economy alive and kept families.
We definitely need a stimulus package, but the fact is, if they don't give the cities money, it's the fire departments, the police departments.
And you know what some of that money is going to be for? It's for paying non-citizens. I don't want non-citizens getting money. I want citizens getting money. Those are Americans who need money. They certainly need more money than non-citizens do.
But by the way, how do you feel that in the census that Trump wants to do away with not counting non-citizens as part of the census?
That's a non-issue. That's a non-issue.
He's in courts. They're trying to sue for that. Now that's a very big issue because that's representation.
The census has already gone through and it was defeated in terms of asking for citizenship and what have you. There's no way that you can tell whether an individual is a citizen or a non-citizen because they eliminated that blank. So yeah. It's a moot point.
I have a question to ask you now.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, my timer didn't time. I have no idea how long we're talking. I mean, we may be talking for 20 minutes or it might be an hour and a half. I don't think, but I think to ensure that we don't bore our audience.
Yeah.
We might have to sign off and pick this up on another day. Did you want to come back on Tuesday? Because we got a hell of a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do. And have you already voted?
I voted. Of course, absentee.
And I haven't voted. We're going to literally be there election day, and we're going to be going through the election lines. And I'll tell you what it's going to be like. It was rather interesting in 2016, being there in the election lines. It really was. It really was. So I'll tell you all about it when we have.
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, if you have a laptop, what might be great, or even to record it, I could talk to you while you're waiting online with fish.
That's a possibility. You know what? I think maybe a Zoom call. Doesn't a Zoom call come through emails?
Yeah.
Well, I have email on my phone. We may be able to do this.
I could talk to you and you could interview people. You could
I think that would be fun.
You could be I think I want to make you a reporter again. You're good. Not to Fox, But
Oh, no, I'll be an independent. I'll be definitely.
right. But supposedly there's some news stations coming out that supposedly going back to news stations and not advocacy
I think that
stations.
would be delightful. I think that would be the way it needs to be. We need information, and we need unbiased information, and we can make up our own minds. Americans are not stupid. Are not
Well, I
stupid.
don't know about that. I'm sort of down on Americans.
Stop it. Stop it.
The one thing when I was young and oh so foolish.
And you are still young now. Stop
And foolish. But the one song, a song that I liked that was, I thought meant a lot, which I'm totally, I think a false premise, is Imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one, John Lennon? Imagine all the
course.
people living in a world with no governments. And
Yeah.
then I realized throughout the years, with no governments and no control, people will kill themselves. It's like Bosnia, that area, the Israeli area, the Muslims, the ones, the Shiites and the Sunnis. With no government, they all kill themselves. So the thing which I want to know.
America is the best. We are the best country at this point right now. We need to preserve our democracy, our liberty, and our freedoms.
My question is, my final question, and if people are listening, could you let me know, why in the world did God give people free will? Isn't it delightful? If he could control things, we could be in Eden. The life could be perfect for everyone was born. Free will, people become destructive, whether we believe Trump or not. But
And do you realize? And do you realize why he didn't give us? He gave us free will, and he didn't make it a mandate. He did it because he trusts in us, and I trust in the American.
But God is omnipotent, so he's not foolish. I don't necessarily trust in us. Well, you don't trust in us. You think there should be a strong police department. You don't think there should be.
Well, I must say, but once again, going back to a strong police department, I want a strong police department, but I don't want one that abuses their power.
Right.
As what happened to George Floyd. I was absolutely, completely, utterly disgusted. And in fact, when I was a news reporter for a public broadcasting station, KOCE-TV in Huntington Beach, we did a massive expose. I was not the lead reporter, but we did a massive expose on the abuse of power by the Huntington Beach Police Department. And we got it changed. And we needed to get it changed. And once again, I don't understand why Tim Scott, who happens to be the Republican senator from my state, why he was defeated by all of the Democrats. We need police reform, because such things that happened to Floyd should never have happened, ever, ever.
Deborah, did you realize that we could talk for about 3-4 hours? We got to go.
Sorry. Listen, viewers, thank you for being with us, and thank you for putting up with us.
Have a good weekend.
I will. Thanks so much, Malcolm.
Send my love to Fish.
And my love to Anna as well.
Bye.